They've created a pathological fear of a virus that should not be feared at this point by pretty much anybody other than people who are uniquely compromised, immunocompromised, or very, very elderly. Now that the vaccines are available, it's over, okay? If the vaccines are available and you choose to get a vaccine, you shouldn't be worried. If you choose not to get a vaccine, you're probably not getting vaccinated because you're not particularly worried. Okay, so we're done. But for certain segments of the population, the paranoia has set in, and the paranoia will not leave, and so you will get more mandates.
Why? I don't know. I just wish, if you want to be like right-leaning and not sound like a dumb like engage with the broader talking points, right? Engage with the fact that like we can't have millions of people getting sick simultaneously because our healthcare system can't handle it. That's just not how these healthcare systems are built. Like, why not engage with the more like reasonable arguments rather than just like, well, only 1% will die.
You'll get more attempts to cram down, more attempts to control, even though you now have the government openly admitting you're not going to be able to eradicate this virus. So then what's the purpose? So Mark Cuban, he says that he's going to force his employees to be vaccinated.
If you work for me, I require my employees to be vaccinated, unless there's a doctor's reason where they can't be. You know, like you, I don't want my kids to be at risk. So, you know, the consequences of you not being vaccinated is I'm not going to shut the fuck up. I'm going to be in your mother ear driving you mother crazy.
What a hero. What a hero. Okay,
but then it's this is such a way. I just want to play video games. Ben Shapiro should have no problem with this, okay? Mark Cuban is a private business owner. If a private business owner wants to regulate this, okay, you celebrate and champion the fuck out of private business. If you don't like it, go work somewhere else. This is your talking point, okay? You can't get mad at some business owner saying he's going to force his employees to get vaccinated because your answer is, well, the free market should solve for this. Someone else will make a job where you don't have to be vaccinated. Like what? Like that? You shouldn't care at all about this. You should be celebrating Mark Cuban's right to regulate his workplace in a different way, and you just happen to disagree with it. That's fine.
One problem. Your kids are not at risk, Mark. Your kids aren't at risk. The total number of children in the United States who have died over the course of this pandemic with COVID-19, not just is under 600. During that same time, total number of kids who have died from pneumonia, closer to 1,000. According to Dr. Marty McCary from Johns Hopkins University, total number of kids, total, in the United States who have died from COVID-19 without a significant pre-existing condition is somewhere, he said this on the show last week, is somewhere between 10 and 20. 10 and 20.
Okay, you also have to stop saying this. Stop saying without a pre-existing condition. Bro, pre-existing condition for COVID-19 can be obesity. Why do people say like without pre-existing conditions, like they're so rare, okay? What percentage of America is obese? Percentage of America, obesity. I was gonna say 60, 70, but that's, I think, overweight. 42.4% of America is obese. The risk of severe COVID-19 illness increases sharply with elevated BMI. Is there like an official category for like, this is officially defined as a comorbidity? People with excess weight, even without other comorbidities. Obesity is the comorbidity more strongly associated for COVID-19 in Mexico. Okay. So like when you say like without pre-existing conditions, you're cutting off like 80% of Americans, right? Because I think diabetes might be one as well. I don't know. We should go and check all the, well, actually, let's just look at it. Does age count as a comorbidity? He's talking about kids. I'm pretty sure 80% of kids don't have comorbidities. Sure, and that might be the case, but anytime you utter the phrase, this many people have died with no comorbidities, why would you phrase it that way? That's such a stupid way to phrase things, right? It was like when we watched that grade A under video and the guy was like, oh, well, this is a disease, but it mainly just targets people that have pre-existing conditions and that are very old.
If you're over 45, you are literally 958 times more likely to die than someone under 18. And if you're over 65, mate, you're almost 2,500 times more likely to die. Oh my God! Yeah, mate, COVID is an old people disease. Only 3% of all COVID deaths are under 45.
Okay, and again, just to reiterate how kind of silly this sounds, like if you're gonna go that way, almost all diseases are old people diseases. Diseases are usually what kill old people. It is really hard when you're in your 20s or 30s or even 40s to die because you got like a flu or whatever. Like that's some pretty crazy shit. Like generally younger people, you have to start getting like pretty old to like die of diseases generally. unless we've got some crazy like bacterial meningitis or whatever crazy shit or whatever. Like generally people don't die of diseases when they're like below 50 years old, you know?
45's not even that young in the first place. Simulation time. Which means that of our 838 that died from COVID, right? Unlucky boys. The amount that we would expect to be younger than 45 is just 25 of them. Rest in peace, boys. But let's analyze that remaining 25 one last time and see how many of them were already in shit health to start with.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. I love counting.
COVID is deadly. 96%.
Okay, I don't understand the point of any of this analysis. This is going to be true for every single disease. Even if we had a highly lethal disease, it's still going to kill older people more. It's still going to kill people with pre-existing conditions more. This is going to be true for every single disease and every disease that ever comes out ever. Like, what is the name of the disease that targets young, healthy people? Congratulations, that's literally every single disease ever. That's all of them. That's every disease. That's all the diseases. All of the diseases are like that. And when they're not like that, it's a really big deal. I'm pretty sure obesity is a risk factor, not a comorbidity. Yeah, it might be that because I think comorbidity might be defined as just a disease, like having a second disease. Systematic review, review method, defined, brief. Cancer, cerebrovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, chronic lung disease, chronic liver disease, diabetes, heart conditions, mental health disorders. Weird. Obesity is listed here. Is obesity considered a disease? Is obesity a disease? Obesity is a complex disease involving an excessive amount of body fat. Oh, interesting. Okay. So then it can be a comorbidity, right? Oh, because smoking is listed here too. Interesting. Gotcha.
And Mark Cuban is saying that he's going to yell at you and force you to get vaccinated and be in your MFing year because his kids are at risk. The only way you can believe this is if you've been propagandized to. Democrats have put that propaganda out there for too long, and now people are ensconced in it. And when they're called on it, they have no response to it. So Joe Rogan, who is, listen, full disclosure, I'm very friendly with Joe. I think Joe's great. So Joe had on Sanjay Gupta from CNN, right? They're a medical expert over at CNN. And it just went so poorly for Gupta because if you are the public health expert over the last year, you look like a fool. You've done a terrible job, generally speaking. So Gupta was asked by Rogan about children vaxxing. And Rogan says something very simple. Right, what you're about to hear is a very simple logical point from Rogan that Gupta completely misses.
Okay, the argument against children getting vaccinated is that children are at a incredibly low risk for like any serious complication or anything bad to happen with coronavirus. And there probably are some side effects to the vaccine. They're incredibly rare. But when you're weighing the incredibly rare chance of a child to get seriously ill versus the incredibly rare side effect of vaccine, it's probably at the end of the day, I don't think they've approved vaccinations for under 16 yet. I don't think so. That's my understanding of it.
Hey, Rogan says to him, so here's the deal, Sanjay, you're vaccinated, right? And Gupta's like, yeah. He's like, and you don't feel afraid, right? And Gupta's like, yeah. He's like, you're 51, right? Gupta's like, yeah. He's like, well, your chances of dying from COVID are still higher than that of a child. So why are we supposed to be worried about kids? Should they be worried? Should they walk? You're not worried.
Oh, are they approved for up to 12 now or down to 12 now? Maybe they are?
To are at a lower risk than you? Should their parents be worried? Here's Rogan.
Pfizer's approved from 12 to 15. I gotcha.
Your attitude that you're not worried about catching it because you've been vaccinated and you're a healthy guy. That is the exact same feeling that people have about vaccinating their children. If they have healthy children and they know that statistically speaking, there's so few children that have died from COVID.
Mm-hmm. And again, just you got to stop talking about it from dying, okay? It's so stupid. On the Democrat side, it's dumb when you're like, oh, all your kids are going to die, or like that. But then on the Republican side, it's like, oh, well, let's just look at the death number. It's such a dumb way to look at it, right? Like, a couple people in China brought this up. This is true. An argument in favor of vaccinating kids in school might not necessarily be that, like, we need to keep our kids from dying, but it might just be that, like, if we don't vaccinate, then so many kids are going to get it, and kids are, like, going to spread it to each other, and then teachers are going to get sick, and you're going to have to close schools because teachers are out and getting sick, right? That might be, like, an argument in favor of vaccinating children, right? But stop trying to make it all about, like, are they dying or are they not dying? It's so stupid.
There are. It's like, I think 500 or so children
out of millions and millions and millions of kids
that probably have been exposed.
Yeah.
But it's again, part of it is not defining this in terms of life and death.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Okay, but by the way, Rogan didn't stop there. He also went after Gupta because he's on CNN. And he was like, so I took Ivermectin, and people kept saying on CNN that it was horse dewormer. And you guys are liars. Here's Rogan just shellacking Gupta over it.
Horse dewormer's not a flattering thing. I get that.
It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a willing. That's a lie that they're conscious of. It's not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine. Don't you think that a lie like that is dangerous on a news network when you know that they know they're lying?
The thing is, we're like going so fast. Like I feel like I'm missing.
Do you think that's a problem, that your news network lies?
Well, I don't.
Dude.
What did they say?
They lied
What did
and
they
said
say?
I was taking horse dewormer.
My issue is the heart effects after getting COVID. I've heard it really fucking sucks. It really fucks with your heart after seeing both my parents go through heart failure. That's frightening to me. Yeah, I mean, I think it can be. For all the complaints about myocarditis with the vaccine, which I'm pretty sure is still exceedingly rare, with the coronavirus, I think it's like a much bigger concern.
Yeah, it turns out that our media are really, really bad at their jobs. Okay, but here's the problem. A lot of people trust that media. A lot of people have been listening to that media. I don't see how Biden pulls out of the economic tailspin. I don't. I think that he has created a pathological paranoia in a significant percentage of the population. I think there are people who are going to be wearing masks 4 years from now, 5 years from now, maybe forever, because they have been told that the masks are protective. It's become a security.
Okay, in Asian cultures, people have always worn masks. It's like one of the weirdest things well, now it's not weird, but like if you go to like fucking South Korea or Japan or whatever, it's not uncommon to see people wearing masks in public areas, sometimes because they're sick or they have a cold, or other times just because they do. Like it's not like the most uncommon thing in the world. Now, maybe in the Western world, we'd never ever do that. In the Western world, people will just go out and just be like coughing and sneezing all over fucking everything. But it's like not the end of the world, my dude.
Blanket. I think the message of the last year truly is that for a new normal to set in does not take very long at all. Like at all. I mean, you do wonder, over the course of human history, there have been some pretty massive changes in how people live. And you wonder, how did people just accept that? How did people just go along with it? And suddenly they were living a completely different life than they were like 5 years ago. And the answer is that the human brain is quite adaptable.
Hold on. This is a rumor that gets spread a lot. I've never seen it substantiated anywhere, and I feel like I've read the opposite. Your immune system is not a muscle that works out. Casual exposure to germs does not make your immune system stronger. Now, one thing that I've heard is that exposure to a wide variety of environments as a child will give you a better chance at dealing with allergies growing up or not having allergies. That like if you're a kid going out and getting like a ton of different stimulus or whatever, or it might even be not as a kid, it might even be like under 2. It might be really young or whatever. That like going out and being in those environments can help you with like not develop as many allergies growing up. But like in terms of like, oh no, like your immune system's not getting practice. That's not really how your immune system works. It's not like your antibodies like have muscles and they get stronger or whatever. Like if you're exposed to a particular pathogen, then you'll develop antibodies for that particular pathogen, and then you'll have them. But like, it's not like being exposed to 30 other pathogens beforehand makes your like macrophages beefier, or like your T cells have like longer memory or whatever. I've never seen that substantiated ever before. So many people think their immune system became weaker because of lockdowns. Yeah, because people say that a lot before. I've even heard that as a kid. People are like, oh yeah, like eating stuff off the floor is okay sometimes. You know, your immune system needs practice. But I mean, that's because we think about it in terms of like, well, everything else we practice and it gets stronger and better, whatever. But I don't think your immune system works the same way. Just curious, if your immune system doesn't improve with exposure, why do people in a lot of rural communities have the ability to drink the water there, which we wouldn't? That's probably doesn't have to. Well, hold on. Okay, let me be more precise, okay? Your immune system will grow towards a specific pathogen if exposed to a specific pathogen. So if there is an area that has like a ton of a certain germ or virus or whatever, and then you get exposed to that, you'll have protection against that. But exposure doesn't protect you against future non-related things. That's what I'm saying. So that if I run around outside a whole bunch and I get sick a whole bunch as a kid and then I grow up and then I get like the flu, I'm going to be way better. That's not true. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. If the immune system doesn't need practice, why the need for booster shots? Okay, because booster shots or exposures to, I'm just repeating myself, exposure to a specific pathogen trains you against a specific pathogen, but it doesn't train you against other pathogens. That's my understanding of how the immune system works. I should be more strong on these statements. That is how the immune system works. How are Europeans able to be protected from American colds? I don't think any of us have good cold immunity because that virus is mutating so quickly. I think everybody gets fucked by the cold, no? So the booster is to protect from other strains? No, the booster is because after a while your body forgets, I guess, or your immunity can wane after a while for things. I don't know why immunity wanes, actually. I don't know what the reason for that is. But just for reference, over 26 million minors were infected. Agree that the argument should be so that these kids don't get infected coming in contact with worse age groups. Okay. There wasn't really any plagues in North America like there were in Europe. Yeah, but so the thing is, my understanding is that in Europe, most of the nasty shit, I'm repeating this and I haven't verified this before. I don't know if this is true or not, so take this with a grain of salt. My understanding is that in Europe, a lot of the bad shit came from livestock. And that's where like a lot of that plague shit and all that horrible fucking disease stuff came from. So it killed a lot of Europeans, but then the ones that were alive like had resistances to it or developed resistances to it, and that like that all of that German filth associated with livestock is like what made Europeans so adept at dealing with those types of diseases. But Native Americans didn't have any of that shit, so. So they had never been exposed to like a lot of the diseases that came from like livestock related shit, was my understanding. I think that traveling to another country makes you susceptible to colds. That's why if you vacation for 2 weeks somewhere, a lot of people get a cold by the time they are on the return flight, but that's to be expected. Well, that's because you've never been exposed to those specific cold viruses before, right?
People adapt to new circumstances very quickly. That is the great superpower of humanity. We can adapt to nearly every circumstance. It also means that we can reorient our brains to really bad ideas incredibly quickly and start living in line with those ideas to our own detriment. And it's very hard to shake us from that. After we get to that, unless there is good leadership, this is where leadership comes in and statesmanship, unless you have people who are out there actively battling these pathologies, these mental pathologies that people now have about this, this is going to remain for a long time. And Joe Biden he helped create the pathology. He's got a problem. The only way the economy comes back is if Joe Biden says to people, you are now safe, go live your life. He won't do it.
I don't know how much the lockdown shit, I feel like it's supply chain shit is what we're having to deal with now more so than like coronavirus stuff. And these are like other countries where these issues are happening. I think some of this is not necessarily in the control of the United States anymore.
And the only way the economy comes back is if Joe Biden says to people, you need to go back to work and get a job. And meanwhile, he's trying to pay them to stay home.
If anybody has anything to the contrary, I've seen so many studies for this. I haven't seen anything linking UI, unemployment insurance, to unemployment. I haven't seen it. There were states that cut UI early and the unemployment didn't get any better compared to the ones that didn't. I've just never seen this. I just haven't seen this ever since. I keep hearing this repeated over and over and over and over and over again, but I just haven't seen it substantiated anywhere. It's like the conservative talking point, but pretty sure federal insurance is gone by now anyway. Yeah.
Is going to be conducive to a healthy economy or to a healthy presidency for Joe Biden. I think that he's locked himself in a box here, and he is like a mime now. He's just pushing at the invisible glass, trying to find a way out. And meanwhile, speaking of Joe Biden and being trapped in a box with somebody who's not great.
Unemployment isn't even high at the moment. It's 4.8% naturally. No way. What? I thought it was 6+. Is it really 4.8? Wait, what? I thought I was like 6+. Wait, if our unemployment is 4.8%, what are we worried about right now? Or what is the problem? There's 10 million open jobs? Okay, but like, and? I mean, yeah, that's what's gonna happen. I mean, unemployment can only you only have so many workers. Unless you have to get more immigrants to come in and work jobs if you want. Is it possible that LFPR has diverged from unemployment more than normal? So, my understanding is the labor force participation rate, I think, includes retired people. And I think that's expected to drop as our boomers get older and older. We keep talking about like the boomers aging out of the job market. But labor force participation is probably going to raise, I think, until they die. I think that's just a thing that's going to happen. I don't even know if it's like off where it should be though, right? Like because labor force participation rate is always dropping, and it's probably right now where we would have expected it to be. So in 2015 it was like 63%, now it's 62%, like Prime age EPOP hasn't recovered as much as headline unemployment, and prime age EPOP was rising pre-pandemic. Are you just going to ignore the cliff for this? Okay, hold on. This looks like a cliff, but like if we assume that there is some trend here that was like going down, I'm not going to be able to graph a perfect regression or anything, okay? Right? But if we assume that there is some trend going down, right? And we have like, there was a huge dip here, but eventually like it's come back to normal, right? Obviously I see a huge dip here. I'm not fucking blind, but like just because there's a dip doesn't mean we would expect to go back up to where it was before. That doesn't mean if it doesn't go back up here, we're fucked, right? Like if there's already like a decline and it looks like we're on track, like just eyeballing it, right? If it looks like we're already on track to where we like would have been declining to before anyway, we can't see. It looks like the current dip would be explained with the 2010, 2015 regression, if not the overall. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. The biggest thing conservatives keep ignoring is that overall economy fully recover. COVID has to be completely neutral. Yeah, maybe, yeah. Sometimes people make a mistake when they're thinking about like what it means to like catch up to where you were before. So like, let's say for instance, this is your market, boom, 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 boom. And then let's say that you have like a huge crash for a while. People will be like, when we hit here, people are like, oh, look, we recovered. No, this is not recovered. That's not recovered, right? Because I think what you have to do is you have to look at like where everything was heading. And then like, if we would have been here, like we're not technically fully recovered until we catch back up to where we would have been, I think generally, right? There's like a different way to look at it. You can't just like move forward in time years and years and years with the rest of the economy or the rest of the world economy progressing. And then you catch up to where you were 10 years ago. And like, oh, look, we've recovered. We're back to where we were before. I was like, okay, kind of, but not like necessarily, right? So I don't know, like, yeah, is there like a steep drop off here? Sure. But like, we wouldn't have expected these numbers to start climbing again. Would we have, I guess? Maybe, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of different ways that we count unemployment. I have to read through all of these things. I always forget these. So the youth, here's some things to be aware of when people talk about unemployment, where they try to lie to you, okay? So some people will say, oh, that's not unemployment. I'm talking about real unemployment. I'm talking about true unemployment, okay? So usually when we talk about unemployment, we're talking about something called the U3 unemployment rate. The U3 unemployment rate includes people looking for work, but it excludes discouraged workers. Now, some people say like, oh, well, you should include all blah, 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 blah. So some people argue like U3 or U6. There's different reasons why people use different numbers, but just know that like more or less, like the U3, the U6 have all like roughly tracked each other, and like none of these have like diverged massively or anything. So it's like, oh, they're lying about the real fucking unemployment rate. That's bullshit. Now, labor force participation rate, I think this is defined okay, here, we can just look at this. It's defined as the number of persons in the labor force divided by the civilian population, age 16 plus. So, as I was saying earlier, the problem with labor force participation rate is as the boomers age out and get older and older, until they start dying, we're going to see that labor force participation rate fall off and get lower and lower because we're so top heavy in terms of age, right? This is the issue. So until like all the boomers, what is the average age of a boomer? Average age of baby boomer. Jesus, it's 57 to 75. So we still have a ways to go. I feel like I've heard about the boomers dying for fucking 30 years now. I'm 30 years old. But so we still have like another 20 fucking years until like most of these guys are gone. Wouldn't EPOP be immune from this kind of artifact? If it's only 25 to 54, yes, possibly. Would you expect, is EPOP defined as only 25? I see it says it here. Is it? I've never even heard of employment to population ratio. There's like 50 million different fucking ways that people define unemployment. I forget. There's a lot to keep up with. But even now it seems higher than it was before, right? Like it seems like the employment in this age group is much higher than it was like from the 80s and earlier, no? You'd also expect more women working overtime. Oh yeah, maybe. That picked up a lot after the 40s, I think, too, right? Hey, Destiny, what was the algorithm or theory the IRS uses to detect errors on tax returns? It's some math thing with like ones in certain places or something. I don't remember what it was called. Someone in chat will know it. The labor force participation rate isn't only going down because of people getting older. It's the same for younger people. I don't know what this graph is. The labor force participation rates of women in selected 10-year age groups, why only track women? This is from 85 to 2015. Serious question, do they count streamers, YouTubers, OnlyFans, content creators in the labor pool? In the labor pool, yes. And are you asking if they count them as being employed? Yeah, they must. Because when you fill out, I'm trying to think. Oh my God, I spent so long since I've done my own 1040. I'm pretty sure when you fill out your tax forms, there are boxes for, it'll say, I don't know if it says unemployed. Is there a box for unemployed? I don't think you file taxes if you're unemployed. But I know there'll be for like sole proprietor, self-employed, like LLC, S Corp, whatever. But apparently, according to Dem messaging, women disproportionately lost out on the labor force. I don't know if that's true. I think that the problem with women in the labor force is that I'm guessing right now, I don't know if this is the case, but I'm guessing right now that in times of economic hardship, you probably have more women staying at home watching children than men do. So in times of like economic hardship, you're probably going to see women drop out of the labor market more than men. That would be a guess that I think is probably true. That would be my guess. Don't they do a lot of unemployment/labor movement reporting based on data from ADP, one of the biggest payroll companies? Maybe, I don't know. Women entering the workplace was the main reason for the labor force position rate going up, so it makes sense to separate it by genders. Okay, yeah, maybe, yeah. Even in progressive households, women usually end up with the majority of housework. Here's one of the better economic dashboards I found. It does a nice job of showing where we are at economically and where we are headed. You think women's retirement age should be higher because they live longer? Is that a thing, do you think?
So Joe Biden apparently is now going to become embroiled in the Hunter Biden email scandal. Remember that time that was not a story, the Hunter Biden email scandal? Remember, because the Hunter Biden email scandal was super stupid. It was dumb. Like, remember, because the New York Post posted it and we weren't allowed to post it for a month and all that. Well, it turns out now that it gets a lot worse for Joe Biden. According to the UK Daily Mail, President Biden could become embroiled in an
Why would you report on what the Daily Mail says? What?
FBI investigation of Hunter Biden's finances, experts say, as emails reveal the father and son shared bank accounts and paid each other's bills. Remember all those emails about 10% for the big guy and all of that? Yeah, well, if they shared bank accounts, that gets a lot more suspicious. Emails recovered by Daily...
You're telling me that a dad that was a senator tried to pay rent for his fucking crack addict son sometimes? This is the scandal? Come on, man. He has a Daily Wire sticker on his laptop. Wait, did I say Daily Wire or Daily Mail? The Daily Wire, he's the founder of the Daily Wire. Of course he has a Daily Wire laptop. What do you mean? You said Daily Mail, okay.
That Schwerin was working on Joe's taxes, discussing the father and son paying each other's household bills, and even fielding requests for a book deal for the then vice president, as well as managing the donation of Joe's Senate papers to the University of Delaware. It's unclear why Schwerin had this intimate role in the VP's affairs, rather than government officials in the office of the vice president. Hunter's claim that he and his dad shared a bank account also raised serious questions whether funds from the alleged joint account were used for Hunter's May 2018 week-long bender with a prostitute in a Hollywood hotel. Last December, Hunter admitted in a public statement he was under federal investigation over his tax affairs. But Joe Biden wants to look into your $600 transactions with the IRS. The rules do not apply to the specials like...
Wait, if the rules didn't apply, then why would there be a potential FBI investigation? Does that imply that the rules do apply?
Joe Biden. I know.
Okay, I don't know.